So let's first try to understand like what it is. Like what's the idea, Elemeno Health?
Information is growing exponentially. You know, like the doubling time for knowledge in healthcare is about 73 days. But if you look at the data on the time between when something new is determined to be a good practice to when it's actually implemented industry-wide is 17 years.
Oh.
So how can knowledge be doubling every 73 days, yet it takes us 17 years to get from this to adopt it? There's a big problem. And one is about disseminating that information. But it's one thing to say to a hospital or to a clinic, hey, this is what you should be doing. The real catch is in implementing the change of that practice. How do you get the information to your frontline staff in a way that they can easily understand it and that they can easily act upon it? So I need to be able to get that information when I need it in a way that I can not just access it, but I can digest it and I can turn around and use it. So that's the big challenge for us.
So for someone like me who's seen, like, I've been at the ER and they have binders and they have like posters. And like, this is kind of that for a
Sure,
new age.
it's taking the binder, it's taking the poster, it's taking the flyer that they put above the toilet in the restroom, you know, where they've got that captive audience. It's taking all that information and digitizing it, but digitizing it in a way that you can understand it. So don't give me a binder with a 20-page policy. You've got to give me that just in the moment job aid that I need that actually enables that policy. And on the back end for leaders, we can now track who's looking at what and when, what they like, what they don't like. How effective is my information that I'm giving to that bedside nurse?
Yeah.
Is it actually being used? Is it being understood? And if it's not, now I've got a digital way to iterate on it and give them a better experience.
There are a lot of sources for very generic information, like, oh, this is how you operate this piece of equipment. Great. I'm looking at that. I looked it up, you know, on a publicly available video platform. And I say, great. And then I look at the machine that I have. Oh,
Slightly different.
It's a slightly different model. And all those other pieces, mine are all blue, but in the video they're green. Are they the same thing? So what we try to do is take that information and make it hyper-local. So, you know, we'll have everything in our content from a photo of a supply closet that shows the bin where you're going to get these things, because it's not just good enough to have that high level of how to do it. It has to get very specific.
This is, to be very specific, it's an application on your phone or on your laptop, on your...
It's a responsive web app. So if you want to use the real term for it, it's a multi-tenant responsive web app. So the thing that Arup actually started to lead into is that all of this is actually hyper-local as well. So it's not just getting the information, it's getting the information that's meaningful to me.
Well, healthcare is a team sport. It's about people together. But healthcare is ultimately local.
And I mean, you should be really proud of what you accomplished. But what I'm proud of is that, like, that Sanity gets to power this. That the product that we are putting together is powering that whole workflow. Like, and explain, like, who are creating that content.
So we have more than half of our company is a content team, and that is a group of people who both design the content and actually execute on building it. Over the years, we learned a few things. First of all, we had to move from highly bespoke content, like every single piece was completely different based on what the client wanted, to recognizing that there were patterns within this content, so we could start to create a content model, that there are these different types of content, and these are the patterns that those follow. We needed a place where we could build all of that out, and that's when we started using Sanity. The thing that has been making us more and more efficient is moving onto the Sanity platform because it is really user-friendly. So if you imagine, the majority of our business is in Sanity all the time. It's really driving that part of our business. The thing that is going to make us more efficient on top of that platform is the ability for our clients to share content with each other. One of the things that this platform's allowed us to do is to make a really easy way for us to copy content from one client's space to another client's space. Yeah. And then we do really quick editing of it. Before, I can tell you in our library, I'd go in and I'd see like 12 things all on the same topic. Now it's much easier for us to find those things and to make these versions of it. The really cool thing is I think that's also allowing, it's kind of multiplying the work that our clients are able to do. So if you think of, how much one of our clients could interface with us before and saying, I want to do this, this, and this, now they can essentially go look through a catalog that we have called the Resource Network and start to pick things and choose it and say, okay, I want this and I want to modify it in these ways.
Like Sanity is a development platform, and some potential customers are sometimes afraid that they will need like a huge engineering team.
No, it's been pretty amazing. So we have a very small engineering team. And that was actually one of the things that appealed to us about this platform is you're doing the heavy lifting and you're doing the maintenance work. You're making sure that it's up and running all the time. It's a configuration for us and it's a customization. We are also super appreciative of your releases because you'll fix something or you will design a new feature before we could even start to think about it. And it's just
and
there
the things
for us.
we make are the things you need.
And the things that you make are the things that we need. So
that's cool. The content models, the structured content part, like helps everyone and make sure everything is according to your patterns, the ones you want.
It's doing two things for us. I think when I think of structured content, I actually think of the elements that are within the content. So now in Sanity, we are able to highlight a link to somewhere and we're able to highlight, we have a lot of phone numbers, click to dial in our stuff. Now on the front end, we can change that styling as we learn and we do usability testing. Whereas before, because it was all hard coded at the code, if we wanted to change the style of a header, we then manually needed to go into every single entry and do that. Now we can make these blanket style changes across all of it. The other thing with...
and that means like if you have you discover that in general, people need to go like a fast access to phone numbers. You make that change. Now that happens on all of the hospitals.
On everything.
Exactly, because that is generalized.
It happens across our platform. We discovered that our hyperlink styling didn't really make sense, right? And so all of a sudden now we can just go change that blanket across everything because of the structured content under it. It also, future looking, provides us an opportunity to be distributing content into other platforms, perhaps, or even into devices. If you could imagine if they had a screen and we had some way of delivering in there, we're not going to be stuck. I mean, I love the phone and I love the desktop, but it's not going to keep us in one place in the future. So it offers a lot of opportunity.
So, and the way you kind of scale your business and the way you drive the kind of business value is by then, I guess, new partnerships with new hospitals or new kind of, and then producing that content over time in that partnership.
Even with, there's the new hospitals that we bring on, but the other driver is that going back to that beginning when we're talking about knowledge doubling every 73 days. Information is constantly changing. So even once we're established in one hospital, there's between the changes in processes, the changes in supplies, the changes in people, this is a very dynamic system. So what we appreciate about Sanity is it allows us that agility to be able to continually adapt to the changing environment that every one of these departments is constantly facing.
Oh, that's amazing.
And from a design point of view, as we're a startup, right? We're still learning a lot about what this content is. And I think that it has allowed us the flexibility to change the content model when we need to. So, we developed a taxonomy of content types. We're already starting to say, you know what? There wasn't a there, that one's out. We used it a few times and it wasn't really that. So we're going to change it to this. Or actually this one now needs to be 4 different patterns that we're doing, and we can start to break those down. So it's not, holding us back from being able to evolve really quickly. So this is what our app looks like. This is our demonstration site. So
General
Hospital is a general hospital. And the way it's set up is that we have individual spaces for each of the units within a hospital. So in this case, I'm in the intensive care unit. This is our homepage experience. There are announcements. Those are actually self-published by the staff. And then it tells me everything about me. These are the things I have to do. I have an assignment that I have to do. Oh, here's my team's newsletter. Previously, newsletters were distributed by email, and no one knew if anyone read them. Now we can provide them feedback. Oh, 9 people of your team, of your 10 people on your team actually read the email. They actually opened it. But then it has suggested resources, and the suggested resources is a place where the manager of that unit or the educator is highlighting, these are the things you need to really know right now. As Arup mentioned, sometimes something will happen.
So this is managed by the hospital?
This is managed by the hospital. So they're curating it. And I think that is what's unique about what we're doing, is that we're curating a collection of things specific to this unit. Maybe this unit has some places where they have deficiencies in training. They're going to highlight things. So it really allows that individuality down to the location. So those suggested resources are selected by the management, and then the new and updated resources is just a dynamic feed. But we also do have a search capability, and that search capability is really where this all started. I am in the moment. I'm alone in the middle of the night. I have to use a new piece of equipment. Great. I can go in and search for that piece of equipment, get the refresher, then go into the room and do the procedure.
And that's the core loop. That's the core thing people
so
do.
we talk a lot about the push and pull of content, right? We have a heavy pull mechanism of I need this now. But what we also recognized is that from the management's point of view, they need to push things to their team.
So how do you kind of, how does it, with the guides and stuff like that?
Yeah. So if you imagine I'm going to go use a piece of equipment, one of the most common types of content that we have in our system is a how-to. And this how-to is always organized using the same pattern. So I have my indications, my contraindications. It tells me the supplies I need. And look, there's the photograph. This is what that tray looks like at that hospital. Now, it may look different at a different hospital. Again, this is a way that we can take this pattern and show the example of, okay, you need a photo like this to put in. And then what's very important is the steps and making sure that there's, the stepwise 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what this platform has enabled us to do, is create these standards. Guess what? If there's steps, it's going to be a numerical list. And this is how the numerical list is going to work.
And then we have these short videos.
Yeah. So throughout a lot of the content, we can insert these short videos because there are places where seeing is better than reading, right? And so, to describe how would I get all these pieces put together would take 1,000 words. But just having the little video snippets in there.
And there's no intro, no nothing. Just like
there's no intro. It just cuts right to it. So we actually do video in like 3 different lengths. We have these short snippets. Then we have like a 3-minute demo because in different contexts, you need a little bit more time. And then sometimes we'll even house their lectures if we need to do that.
So and then you have like a team come on site and do those.
No, what's amazing is nurses are making these videos and also a lot of the images. So when we were talking about that surgical example before, just, give us the 10 images of those trays and we'll take them and we'll put them in the proper order in these pages.
Cool. Do you have one of those decision trees too?
Yeah. So this is what we call a decision guide. And this is where, they would go through and answer those yes/no questions, and it just keeps guiding them through those.
This would be like a flow chart in the olden days.
They would be in the olden days. They would be a flow chart. Yeah.
But healthcare is so dynamic. There's always the unexpected. Well, expect the unexpected. So if we look at last respiratory season, there was a huge surge in the U.S. with RSV. So in this case, I search for it here in the app and I can find, okay, here's my RSV resources. And I can then quickly see, okay, here's the baseline of the pathophysiology of what's happening. So I understand what's happening within the patient. But then I can come down and look at the example of what is this patient how do I measure their distress? And so here I can see this is what the work of breathing is when somebody's affected. And this situation is when I should escalate to X, Y, or Z therapy. Now, this type of content, which was put together by one client now, is available to pull again next time they have an overflow. But importantly, when all the other hospitals around the country are having this problem, it's all ready to go. Let me grab it, and I just need to tweak it for some of the specifics of the interventions that are in my unit.
So are you able to, we are really preoccupied right now with like figuring out how to measure the value of content and the value of investing in content. Are you able to measure the effect of implementing this in a hospital?
Yeah. So when we go back to kind of the roots of the company, it was about how do we make patient care safer? How do we reduce errors? And what we've seen in our client is that when we drive specific content around the process for a given error or a quality metric, we see that improve. The people who are coming into healthcare, those people are all digital natives. This is how they have learned. Not from textbooks, not from classrooms. It's so much right here in the moment. That's their expectation. So when we have transformed orientation into little bite-sized microlearning and delivered that to the staff, we've seen orientation times drop by 40 to 60%. And that saves a lot of time. It saves a lot of money. And importantly, when you are teaching people through these little pieces of content that they can come back to over and over again, that's that just-in-time reinforcement. So rather than learning and forgetting, they learn, they can remember in context when they actually need it.
It's amazing. So this app saves lives.
Absolutely.
And I'm grateful that we can be a part of it. And thank you for your generous time today.